What's up, everybody? The story and the engine. Blah. What a coincidence that this episode comes out the same day the Thomas the Tank Engine pilot comes out. Is that a coincidence? Does anyone care about that? I just kind of saw it on the news. It's this thing that's happening. I am really excited for this one. Every single thing I've seen in promotion, everything I've seen in the teasers and the trailers, it all just looks so good. And I really like the short story that Inua Ellams wrote before this as well. I forget the name of it. It was like What I Did in My Summer something. Either way, it's on the Doctor Who website and it was actually really good. I really enjoyed it. And it almost makes me wish that they did these types of prequel stories for each episode, but I know that that's a bunch of extra writing and just so difficult and blah-de-blah. But I love that they did it this time. After the slight disappointment of Lucky Day, this is now the main story that I'm looking forward to the most, so hopefully it doesn't let me down. I've got quite high hopes, but at the same time I'm quite sure that it will live up to those hopes. I heard a rumor about one thing that might be in the episode. If it isn't in the episode, I won't mind, but at the same time, you know, it would be pretty epic. But anyway, don't forget to leave a comment below. Don't forget to leave a like for the community reaction video. Huzzah. And don't forget to vote on the poll either. This is going to be a very special episode. So may I just say, we are so close to 30,000 subscribers. We have gained 1,000 subscribers in the past week. Can we get to 30,000 subscribers before the end of the season? Can we please? We are so close. One last push, guys. I'm going to be going all out this week in terms of uploads. I've got some pretty incredible stuff planned, not just for this week, but for next and beyond. And even after the season is done, the party train will not be over. I've got some truly insane shit planned. And I know that sounds like exaggeration, but some of the stuff I've got planned, even I can't believe. I was talking about some of it in the Discord server, and holy shit. Anyway, pointless plug out the way. How we looking on the bingo front? Pretty damn awesome. Actually, I'm doing pretty bad, but I hope you guys at home are doing great. I'm gonna see if I can knock a few off after this episode, but of course, all of that preamble aside, let's just get right into the episode. Do I really have any more to say? Oh yeah, on Twitter, I'm gonna be posting a tweet that says, what are your guys' thoughts on the episode? If you want to be included in the community reaction, you should probably head over there, follow me on Twitter and leave a reply, because I'm going to be trying out something new next week where I try and include both responses, and maybe I'll even split them up into two separate videos just to get as many comments in as possible. And also my full reaction and reaction highlight should be available to everyone on Patreon and all of the channel members. So with all that said, let's watch the story in the engine right now. Holy crap. Damn. We are so fucking back. Doctor Who is back on the menu, boys. Holy shit. We won. This was a brilliant episode. I liked it a hell of a lot. I really did. I must admit, guys, I really liked this one. I thought it was great. There is a lot of stuff going on in this story. It's a bunch of moving parts. I'm glad I could get those in there. Obligatory puns out of the way. I think it worked like a well-oiled machine. I'm sorry, I had to. Yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. It was something very unique, but at the same time, rather fitting for this era of the show. And a story that I wish we had actually rather early on instead of later on. This would have been a brilliant episode 2 or 3, in my opinion. God, there is so much stuff to talk about here, and I don't want to compare it to last week, but spoiler alert, there will be comparisons to last week. And just spoiler alert in general, let me just put up the spoiler banner right here, because there is one thing that I definitely want to talk about, and I think you guys know I want to talk about, because it's the one thing that really jumped out at me and got me very excited when it happened. Probably I would be more excited if it wasn't 9 o'clock in the morning, but holy fuck, guys, the Fugitive Doctor. The Fugitive Doctor is back in Doctor Who. Now, of course, would I wish that she had a full story and not just another cameo? Yes, I would. This was fucking awesome. I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to really be like, oh my goodness, why didn't she have a full story? Because this isn't really her era anymore. We had that with Jodie Whittaker. So when another Doctor cameos in the 15th Doctor's era, there it feels more fitting because, well, I mean, it's not the Fugitive Doctor's era. Of course, I would love to have an extended flashback sequence with her, to see her as the Doctor and not just another projection of the current Doctor. It's it's a bit weird. Complain, moan. Holy fuck, I was excited when I saw that shit. I do understand people who might have their complaints with it. I loved it. I genuinely did. And as someone who's a Jodie Whittaker era fan, I'll take the scraps, okay? I'll take the scraps. And geez, it worked so well. There's a lot of quite metaphorical elements of this story and a lot of quite intangible ideas that I understand some people not quite understanding, but as someone who's thought about them quite a bit, specifically when it comes to gods and stories and all of that stuff, I think it comes across as really well thought out. Now, I understand the more kind of atheistic gods have brought immense suffering. Religion as a whole has caused millions and millions of deaths, and unspeakable things have been done in the name of religion, and I understand that. But at the same time, religion has also been a major force for good across the whole of humanity's history. And what I loved was the tying in of religion and gods and stories. It never once says gods aren't real or blah blah blah, but it also does, for my sensibilities, kind of tie them into stories and the meaning of stories and the power of stories, and that's what linked it together rather than the actual power of gods themselves. Because I mean, maybe I'm getting a bit too political here, folks, but I don't actually think gods are real. In a fictional world like Doctor Who, though, I think they did a pretty good job at bringing that in, and not just bringing that in, but separating the gods from the pantheon of gods and all of that stuff, because I know that can get confusing, but I personally did not find it confusing. And I think that's because they kind of stayed away from that more mystical imagery that they had in, say, Lux or with Sutekh, and it's very much a grounded human story, apart from the massive, awesome giant spider. That spider was so cool, by the way. And it seems that people's theories on what it was actually true, outside of it being Mrs. Flood, which, I mean, I never thought it was going to be that, but it was a good shout. It was a good shout. Let's move backwards through the story. Let's talk about the villain. I loved him. I thought he was goddamn brilliant. He was imposing, intimidating, powerful, mysterious, enigmatic, and then at the end, sympathetic. I think this is one of the problems between having Lucky Day and the story and the engine right next to each other, because really this villain does murdering and kidnapping people and keeping them imprisoned for weeks on end is quite a bit of a step up from Conrad. The problem is Conrad is a lot more contemporary and close, which means that according to the writers, the Doctor should care about him more, even though from the Doctor's perspective he should be more angry at the barber than he is at Conrad. See, this is what I mean about that ending scene kind of being out of character, because here we actually forgive the villain at the end and they have this really beautiful confrontation, and I found it really quite emotive, that final scene where they actually forgive him, because it shows that they're better men. It shows that they don't just let their emotions control them. It's not about vengeance. It's not about getting a one-up on someone. It's not about owning them. It's about being good people. It's about being whole people. And Omo makes a massive mistake and betrays the Doctor, and that's rightfully called out, and at the end of the story he retires, and that's all one little story in another big story. And I will also say, on the topic of Omo, holy shit, did reading that short story add so much to this episode. I didn't think it could, but it really does. There's a lot of layers here that just get so much more accentuated having read that short story, and it really made it hit a lot more. And also that moment at the end where they do their handshake and they hug. For me, I'm imagining it from the Doctor's perspective, where Omo is still just a kid in front of him, because I imagine the Doctor, when he meets people as children, kind of like Amy, they never really grow up in his eyes. They stay the same as when he first saw them. Also kind of like that scene in Last Christmas when there's old Clara and the Doctor still sees her as young Clara, and the Doctor says, "You'll always look the same to me." I just love that. I love that idea, and I love that feeling that it evokes in me in this story, because there's so many layers here, and technically that short story isn't really integral to the plot of this at all, but it adds so many layers, and I really, really appreciated it. I think what I liked about this story more than anything is its depth. Yeah, it had a great pace. Yeah, it had a lot of tension. The set design was absolutely incredible, and the soundtrack, mwah. Best soundtrack that we have had probably since Power of the Doctor, in my opinion. I did like some of the motifs that they had in The Giggle, but outside of that, nothing has really wowed me. Actually, Dot and Bubble had a great soundtrack, but the stuff in this episode, I mean, it's so different and just really, really well made. But even more so than all of that, I think it's just the sheer depth in storytelling and the meaning packaged on top of meaning that you can really unpack it all and think about it for days on end. There's a lot to really talk about here, and maybe that's just because I'm so interested in stories. I also loved what they did with identity in this story about found homes and found family, and it really tied back into the Timeless Child. If the Timeless Child didn't exist, I don't think I'd really buy the Doctor finding a home and an identity in somewhere as mundane as Earth. Yeah, it kind of happened in the 70s, but you can argue around that. But with the advent of the Timeless Child, and with the advent of, Jodie Whittaker's whole arc of not really finding herself, not knowing who she is, trying to find an identity, not having any sort of home, I thought all of that stuff worked really well. And just to tie that up in a bow, of course the Fugitive Doctor is there. She's present to link it back to that story, link it back to that storyline, so that thematically it all makes sense, it's all resonant. I also want to say that all of the actors and performances in this episode were just absolutely spectacular. All of these characters who very easily could have fit into the background all have their own unique dynamics and backstories, and some of them are on the side of the Doctor, some of them are on the side of the Barber, and there's a lot of generational gaps here, and it's just, damn, it's so well done. And of course Ncuti Gatwa is on fine form, he's stunning. Basically every plot beat kind of worked for me. I like the maze stuff at the end, and I also do like the sleight of hand, and the maze has turned into a straight line at the end. That feels very Doctor Who. I love the story being a brain and then a tree and then a heart. I love that. That is, damn! There's been a lot of thought put into this episode, and then again when you compare it to last week where just kind of nothing makes sense and it's very surface level, you're really meant to not think about it. This right here is the caliber of storytelling that I expect from this era of Doctor Who, because it's all so show-offy and they've got such brilliant visuals, kind of to hide the fact, similarly to The Well, that it all takes place on one set. But what a brilliant set. Oh my god, it's so good. Lagos is so well imagined in Cardiff. It's kind of crazy to me. I imagine that this is in the back lot at Bad Wolf, kind of like the same place they filmed Boom, the camp in Boom. I haven't watched The Unleashed yet, so I don't know. But god damn did they do well with the mats as well. And again, linking it back to identity, they have two mirroring shots which I just love, which is when the Doctor goes out and he goes through the market and it's all calm and friendly and buzzing with life and he knows everyone and he's welcome and he's home, and then Belinda goes out and it's all chaotic and she's got no idea what's going on and it's crowded and she accidentally knocks something over and she's like, I don't know what's going on here. And I just love that. It's the two different perspectives. Speaking of Belinda, she is on top form this episode, not just for what she is, but what she brings out in other characters. Something I loved is that the Doctor is kind of a bit weirded out and a bit caught off guard, but when Belinda comes in, he just immediately switches to show off mode. And then he's in charge and it's like Belinda is his secret weapon, not just for how awesome she is, but for what she brings out in him. It's like a confidence that comes out when he has his companion there. The Doctor on his own, while strong, is not really that much compared to when the Doctor has his companion, and I just love that. It really explodes. And I also can I just say that food looked really good. Maybe I was just hungry, but damn, that food looked good. I also love the setting of the barbershop to be the one where everyone tells stories, and just so much thought and feeling and effort has gone into this episode, and I've just got to say hats off. The beginning is very good and mysterious, the TARDIS going all brr, brr, brr. Belinda really being our grounding force, we have all of this mystery going on. I also like the spooky girl, which when I saw, I thought, well, that's just a red herring, that's not actually going to mean anything. And then they brought up at the end, just as I was remembering it and just as I was thinking about that, hey, do you remember that spooky girl? And it's a moment kind of similar to the haunting of Villa Diodati, where it's like, maybe ghosts are real. And I just love that stuff, man. But anyway, moving into the second act, that's when we get more of our sci-fi fantasy elements. Belinda comes in, we see the spider, oh, it's just so good. And then we move to the third and final act, which I think it's brilliant. I think it works really well, not just as a confrontation and as a breaking down of the villain to truly understand his thoughts and feelings, to come at it from his perspective to show that yes, he is wrong, he is unequivocally wrong, but at the same time you can kind of understand where he's coming from. And then of course you have your fan service I am the Doctor moment, which I think works because hype / aura / cold as fuck. Do I like the fact that all of the other Doctors showed up on the TV screen? As much as I love seeing clip dumps and clip shows, I actually don't think we needed that. I think we only really needed the sound cues and all of that. Outside of the Fugitive Doctor, I don't know if we really needed all of the other Doctors. That's just a slight thing, that is just a really small thing. The rest of it works really well for me, and I actually think that as a resolution, a wrap-up victory for the Doctor, not only does it make logical logical sense, like I follow it along, it also works thematically. And of course I would be amiss to not mention the beloved Mrs. Flood cameo. Now I didn't really care for it last episode, or the story before that, or the story before that, but I did like it in the Robot Revolution, and I actually did like it here. And I was wondering, why do I like it? I think it's because it's more earthbound, it's more set on Earth. I love that flashback sequence with Belinda, not only because Belinda's awesome, but also because it adds more to her story, her myth. It was quite a heartfelt moment, but Mrs. Flood just showing up there, it really connects her to the Earth, which I think the reason I didn't care before is because it was too spacey, and that is too similar to Susan Triad. It was just too much alike the last series that I wasn't very intrigued, and I wasn't really like, oh, how is she popping up all over the place? I was like, well, someone popped up over the place last time anyway. The unique thing about Mrs. Flood should be that she's a fourth wall breaker, and not so much that she can travel around all over the cosmos, because guess what, we already saw a mysterious old lady who could travel around all of the cosmos. And also we've not really got a lot of evidence for Mrs. Flood, so theorizing isn't very fun in my opinion. Is she the trickster? Is she the Rani? Is she Omega? I would like her to be the god of stories, but they've kind of already done that with this episode. This is the storyline that I really wanted to see in this era, especially after series 1, which had such a focus on stories, and I got it, and I'm satisfied. I feel very satisfied. I'm sure there's a lot more to talk about, but I will save that for the community reaction video. So the question remains, what is my initial rating for the story and the engine? This is actually a really tough one, but I definitely liked it, and I think I'm gonna go with an initial first impression of 8.5 out of 10. My favorite of the series so far. Just very, very, very good. And so don't forget to subscribe. We are aiming for 30,000 people. Can we do it?
I don't know.
But I hope we can. And so a special thanks to all of the channel members and everyone on the Patreon. Tom, Cardboard Oracle, Silver Safi, Bunny, Zoom, Dr. Hoomst, Jack Dean Murray, Vorscom, The Instinct, Kai Keller, Renegade Time Lord 97, Manny, Eric, Ren, Poop Criminal, Diego, Theta, Dark Tranquil, Chicky, No More Flippin', Sick Dr. Fan 84, Comfy Glitch X, Harry, Sanyu, Christian Rothfuss, Unreal Dinnerbone, Aidan Davies, Reef Edwards, Space, Amber Knight, KCKC, Snurly, Connor Bell, Ertle the Turtle, Andrew Locke, Bill Fleming, Hush, Wasabi, Jessica, Kai M, Kylo Wade, Mel, Owen, Toby-Wan Kenobi, Sophie in the Sky, Goldfish, Johnny, Anthony, Kustretch, Just Him, and Teddy Bite. And with all that said, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye bye.